everyone. Happy New Year. It feels a little bit late to be saying Happy New Year, but I hope you all had wonderful holidays over Christmas. I hope you've had a fabulous start to 2024. I'm really happy to be back on YouTube. I've actually been back to work since the 1st of January, so I have been busy, but I took a little time away from videoing until mid-January so I could catch up on some of my projects, which I hope you'll enjoy. If you don't know already, then I have created a winter commonplace book. This is the final commonplace book that I'm doing for my seasonal series. So if you've been following me for a while, you'll know that I've created a spring, summer, autumn, Christmas, and now winter commonplace book. I absolutely love my commonplace journal. This is a type of journaling that I think is so user-friendly and really enjoyable. It's essentially a collection of quotes, sayings, maybe little recipes, book lists, that type of thing that you can just jot down whenever you feel like in a notebook. And I've created these seasonal commonplace little booklets that you can download just as a way to inspire you if you're keen to start a little bit of journaling. So you can get the Winter Commonplace book if you don't have it already by signing up to my newsletter. I'll link to it down below. And I really hope you enjoy it. It is definitely feeling very wintry here. The temperatures have plummeted. It's very cold. I'm enjoying warming my hands on this cup of tea right now, and I've really got my winter jumpers going strong. But it's lovely to be back to YouTube. And the other thing that I was working on is the January Seasons of Story. So Seasons of Story is a little free online journal that I've created. I have some fabulous contributors, other writers I really admire who write some pieces for it, and I contribute to it, of course, and so does my mum. So I'll link to that down below as well if you fancy a read. There's some really great articles. Laura Thompson, who wrote a brilliant biography of Agatha Christie, has written about what she considers to be Agatha Christie's golden age and what are her best novels. And I adore Agatha Christie. I adore golden age crime generally. So reading Laura's article inspired me to write a little piece myself about 5 golden age crime mysteries that I think aren't as well known, that deserve to be a bit better well known. So there's definitely a detective story vibe to the January Seasons of Story, but I think that that's really appropriate because this is such a nice month to just curl up with a really good mystery with a hot chocolate or a cup of tea to hand. But yeah, there's lots to explore in the January Seasons of Story. So I hope you enjoy that too, and of course now I'll be back to my regular videoing as well. But today I just wanted to have a little catch up with you, some bookish chat. It feels like it's been ages, and I thought I'd share what I was reading over Christmas and in December a bit, because I think some of these I haven't told you about. What I'm reading right now as well, and I also thought I'd share some of my bookish highlights from 2023 and also a couple of reading goals that I have for 2024. I think that maybe they're more projects than goals. I don't really set reading goals, but I'm excited about these projects, so I'll tell you all about this coming up in this video. But let's start with what I've been reading, and I'm going to go from kind of most disappointing to the best, because unfortunately there have been some books that I didn't really love. This is one I haven't actually finished. I probably won't finish it. I was reading it over Christmas. I got about this far. It's Crime at Christmas by C.H.B. Kitchen. And it's about a young stockbroker who is invited to his client's home over the Christmas period, and a suspicious death occurs while he's there. Now, it started off quite promisingly, but I really just can't engage with the characters. I don't like the main protagonist very much. This is a kind of golden age crime novel. Normally I do enjoy these, but somehow this one is just boring me quite a lot, so I probably won't finish it. So I'm setting that one aside for now. Then I read Sophie Hannah's Hercule Poirot's Silent Night. I hadn't read any of the Sophie Hannah's books, the kind of continuations of the Hercule Poirot stories before. So this is my first one. I wasn't sure what to expect. And I thought it was promising starting out, and I quite enjoyed the kind of first half of the book, but the ending did disappoint me. I thought she did a really good job at capturing Poirot's personality. He felt like the real Poirot to me, but I didn't enjoy the other characters in the book so much, and I was just disappointed by the ending of the mystery overall. So I don't think I'll be reading any more of the Hercule Poirot continuations, but I'm glad I read this one so I have some idea of what she's doing with these books. Then this one I thought I would really enjoy, and sadly I did not. I read this one over Christmas, Mistletoe Malice by Catherine Farrell. I'd been saving this one up, and really reading this book to me was the kind of equivalent experience to watching a very boring play. The premise is of various family members who again come together over the Christmas holidays, and there's a lot of bickering that goes on, a lot of tension. But in the end, the story just doesn't go anywhere. It's a bit like having an argument with someone in which you just go round and round and round in circles, and in the end, nothing really changes. And I don't like that kind of feeling, so I didn't especially enjoy reading this book. And again, it just bored me quite a lot. Faber's disappointed me a bit. This was a Faber book, and this was a Faber book. So sadly, I normally really like their reprints, but these ones just didn't capture my interest very much. I did finish this one still, and the quality of the writing was good, but I just couldn't really engage with the characters. I didn't really care what happened to them, and frankly, I just found it pretty dull. So that was a bit disappointing. Fortunately, I did enjoy this one a lot more, so Faber made me happy with this one. That's The Long Shadow by Celia Fremlin. As you know, I loved Uncle Paul by her, which Faber republished back in the summer. And I've read another novel by Celia Fremlin since then, so this is my third novel. And this was a great one to read over Christmas, although it's more of a winter read than a strictly Christmas read for sure. It does start out just before Christmas, and there are some kind of Christmassy scenes, but a lot of it goes into January, and it's just generally more of a good winter book than a Christmas book, I would actually say. Celia Fremlin is so good at creating a really tense atmosphere in what seems to be quite a normal domestic setting. I love that about her writing. She really knows how to pace a book well. This did not bore me. It really kept me turning the pages. Even if you don't like the characters very much, you still get interested in them and want to find out what happens. And I think that her books explore a lot of interesting themes regarding domesticity and women's lives from this sort of post-war period, which I find very interesting. She also explores female madness quite a lot in her books. In fact, I'm kind of hoping that she might explore female manners a bit less in some of the books if I read more by her, because that's been a very common theme. But I still am really enjoying reading her work. So yes, I did like that one. Then this was a big favourite from December. I actually wrote about this in the December Seasons of Story issue. I think this was actually originally published as Another Little Murder rather than Another Little Christmas Murder. And I mean, I think obviously it's a sort of publisher's trick to sell this one at Christmas. It has not much to do with Christmas at all. It's all set before Christmas. And again, this is more just a good winter mystery rather than a Christmas read. But it's set in Yorkshire. I think this was published in the early 1940s. It's set in Yorkshire, like I said, and it's the classic English country house setting, which I do really like. This isn't so much of a straightforward murder mystery. It's about a young woman who is driving through a very snowy Yorkshire landscape and her car breaks down. And she accepts help from a passing motorist who brings her back to his uncle's house. And he hasn't visited his uncle for a very long time. When they arrive, they're greeted by the very young new wife of the uncle, and she clearly does not welcome visitors. And just as clearly, there are very mysterious goings-on occurring in this house. And then the uncle dies overnight. So it's just quite a fun setup. There's a twist at the end that I didn't see coming, which I really enjoyed about this book. And yeah, like I said, it's not in some ways such a straightforward kind of murder mystery. There's a bit more going on than that. It was a bit different and I really liked it for that reason. But my absolute standout read that I loved as a reread actually over Christmas was I returned to the world of Anthony Trollope and I read Barchester Towers, which I just loved. For some reason I was just completely in the mood for this. It was Christmas Eve when I picked this up and I finished it on Boxing Day. I was genuinely exhausted by Christmas Eve and it was just what I fancied. It was just what I needed. I just laughed and, smiled and my heart went out to so many of the characters in this book. There's so many funny scenes which I'd forgotten. Really, really funny proposal scene, which definitely rivals the infamous Mr. Elton proposing to Emma scene in Emma. This has also got such a good proposal scene that goes wrong in it. But yes, I just love Anthony Trollope and it was so much fun to return to his world. I'd like to keep rereading these throughout 2024. That's definitely a reading project for this year. I didn't start with The Warden because I have actually reread that quite recently, so I just wanted to dive into Barchester Towers and I'll pick up Dr. Thorne next. But yes, this was just such a lovely cozy read over Christmas. I adored it. And then I've started a Molly Clavering book, which so far I'm really enjoying. It's Yoked with a Lamb, and I think this is the first Molly Clavering that I have picked up. This was actually a Christmas present from my mum. So I started reading it and I'm really enjoying it. She was a close friend of Dee Stevenson. And there's definitely some similarities in the type of writing, though she's very much got her own voice too. And yes, so far I'm just finding this one an interesting read. So I'll tell you more about it once I've finished it because I've only just started it. And then I just today got this in the post, A Season for Scandal by Laura Wood. I read the first one, The Agency for Scandal, by her, I think it was last February. I definitely reviewed it in February, so I think I read it last February too. And I'm a big fan of Laura Wood's writing. I really liked An Agency for Scandal, so I've been looking forward to its sequel. And this is officially out on the 1st of February, but I was very luckily sent a press copy, so I'm really thrilled to get it. Look at the gorgeous spine. This is like the first book in this series as well. They both have these lovely floral spines, which I think are so beautiful. I might save this for February because this would be a good book to read in the month of Valentine's, and in the month for romance. I think this would be a fun read for February. So I think I'll save this one actually for then. But I was really thrilled to get it. So that's just a brief catch up on what I've been reading lately. But I also wanted to chat about some of my main kind of standout highlights from 2023. Every week on the Bookish Almanac, which is my Instagram subscription, and launching that in 2023 is definitely a huge highlight of the year for me. I launched that in August, and it's such a lovely community. And one of the things that we do every Sunday on the Bookish Almanac is we talk about a highlight of our week. And I absolutely love reading the comments of everyone sharing the highlights that are bookish or non-bookish from their week within the community. And that got me thinking about what are my overall highlights of the year, especially my bookish highlights I wanted to talk about on this video. So launching the Bookish Almanac is definitely one of them, building such a fabulous community with that. Launching Seasons of Story, my free online journal. That was also a really big highlight of the year. I've been busy this year, I have to say, because also creating all of my free commonplace books has also happened within the past year too, and that's been a huge highlight. I've really loved hearing from people who said they've been inspired to start a commonplace book, or who've also just enjoyed reading the little booklets that I send out. That's been really lovely. I also started a newsletter in 2023. So it's been a busy year, but it's also brought me a lot of fun and pleasure. I hope it's brought you some fun and pleasure as well. So all of those work-related things have definitely been highlights for me. But also I've had some really big, for me, book highlights in 2023. So I finally completed all of the books ever published by Girls Gone By publishers. Some of you may know that I take photos for their Instagram account. This one, it's kind of unrelated, by the way. This wasn't the book that completed my collection of theirs. I'm just reading it at the moment. You can see I've almost finished this one. Been rereading the La Rochelle books by Eleanor Brent-Dyer. I often have a Girls Gone By book on my bedside table because they're just such soothing nighttime reads for me. So Girls Gone By publishers republish vintage British children's books, essentially. So these are books that were very popular in the first half of the 20th century for the most part, but have since fallen out of print. A lot of these books I collected in my childhood, like the Chalet School books by Eleanor Brent-Dyer and the La Rochelle series by her as well. I also collected books like Lorna Hill's Ballet School series, the Sadler's Wells books, which I adored as a real ballerina when I was young, Monica Edwards, Malcolm Saville, Gwendolyn Courtney, Claire Marley, Margaret Biggs. The list goes on, and I read and collected these as a young girl and a teenager. And in the sort of early 2000s, Anne and Clarissa, who initially had founded the Friends of the Chalet School newsletter, which is a physical newsletter that still exists, that is sent out to fans of Eleanor Brent-Dyer's books and these types of books generally, they decided to start their own publishing company, Girls Gone By. And since then, for I think 20 years or over now, they've been republishing these sort of classic school stories and so on. And they've done a lot of books in that time, and I was just so thrilled in 2023 to complete my collection of all the books they'd ever published. So that was a huge highlight for me. And then another big highlight was finding two affordable vintage editions of two of my very favourite books. I adore the Betsy Tacy books by Maud Hart Lovelace, and she also wrote a couple of books that don't feature Betsy as the main character. They are connected to the Betsy Tacy series, but they can also be read as standalone books. And one is Emily of Deep Valley, which I adore, and then the other is Carney's House Party, which I also love. And these two are just both very rare, hard to find, especially hard to find affordable copies, which is why I haven't ever had them, even though I've been reading these books since I was like 10 years old. But now I do. My clever mum managed to find some affordable copies, and I was just absolutely over the moon. Huge highlight for me in 2023. Another big highlight was being featured in the Simple Things magazine, one of my favourite magazines. So I was featured in their November issue, in their sort of my day in cups of tea little interview section that they always do. That was such an honour. I was really delighted. But then also in November, I was commissioned by the Simple Things magazine to write and photograph an article on comfort reading, which, as I'm the founder of the Comfort Book Club, is of course completely up my street. Definitely a topic that I love writing about. And that article has actually just been featured in their January magazine, which looks like this. And my article is inside here. And I remember taking the photos in November. I was trying to take photos, obviously, that didn't look Christmassy and that would be appropriate for January. But I had so much fun taking these photos and writing about these brilliant books. So that was such a highlight, such an honour. I love the Simple Things magazine, so it really meant a lot to me to be in it. That was so special. And I think those are the kind of main highlights from my year. So what I just wanted to end this with is chatting to you about my reading projects for 2024. So, two of my very favourite independent publishers, Slightly Foxed and Persephone Books, have quite significant anniversaries in 2024. Slightly Foxed is celebrating 20 years of being in business, which is an incredible achievement. I adore their literary magazine and, of course, their books. And what I thought would be nice to do is to choose 12 Slightly Foxed books that I'm going to be reading over 2024. I'm not sure what that list is going to be yet. I've picked up this one, which is their latest title, which they very kindly sent to me, Pig Ignorant, a Teenage Memoir. Slightly Foxed specialise in memoirs. That's predominantly what they republish. They do have some children's books as well, where they republish volumes by Rosemary Sutcliffe, for instance, which I love. But what they're most well known for is their literary magazine, which is amazing. I love their quarterly magazine. But also their beautiful cloth-bound books, which are always memoirs. The adult ones are always memoirs. And I love reading memoirs, and I thought it would be a fun way to celebrate Slightly Foxed this year is to read one of their books a month. So I have to think about which ones I'll choose for that. That will be a fun little project. And then Persephone Books is celebrating their 150th publication in April. I think it's another collection of short stories will mark their 150 books. And I thought what I would do to celebrate this milestone with Persephone is to read, in many cases reread, all of their classic books. So I'm sure you know Persephone Books. They normally have the all grey covers and the beautiful end papers inside, but they also have a classic section where their books are published as classic editions. They're the kind of like most popular books that they publish as classics that have the pictorial covers on them, which I think are really beautiful. I think there are about 14 classics, and they're bringing out a new one, William and Englishman, which is the very first book they ever published. They're bringing out a classic edition of that in April. So it's a bit more than 12 books, but I would just really like to read all of them. This is such a favourite of mine, Little Boy Lost, and I think I'll start with this one. I've read it before, obviously, but I'd like to reread it. A lot of their classics I have read before, but many of them it was a long time ago, and I'd like to return to them. And if you're new to Persephone or you've only read a few of their books, actually starting with their classics is a really good place, because it gives you an idea of what Persephone is really about, and they are their most popular books that they republish in classic editions. So it gives you a really good grounding in terms of Persephone books, and I just think it'd be a fun project for myself to make sure I've read all the classics and to kind of return to them this year as a way of celebrating Persephone. So yes, those are my two little book projects for 2024. I do like that they are celebrating two publishers that I love, two independent publishers that I love to read. I'll also just be reading from my shelves with these because I have all the books already. So that will be nice as well. And I'll obviously keep you updated on what I'm reading as we go through the year on my YouTube channel. So I hope you'll enjoy hearing about which ones I'll be reading and my reviews of them as well. But anyway, it's been so nice to have this catch up. I hope you've all had a fabulous weekend. I hope you've got a lovely week ahead, and I'll be seeing you again very soon. Thank you, of course, for all of the lovely comments and emails and cards and everything that a lot of you sent, wishing me and my mum a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Thank you to everyone who pressed the super thanks button on my videos in December. You're so very much appreciated. And yes, thank you for all those good wishes. And I hope you have a really fabulous year ahead of you in 2024 with lots and lots of good books. I hope to keep inspiring you with some good books too in the year ahead. And I'm really looking forward to sharing lots of reading delights together this year. So have a lovely week, and I'll see you again next Sunday. Goodbye.